the flood we had recently, the base here has gotten some approval to build 6 new complexes. Is it 6, Andrew, or 8? 6, right?
Might be more, 6 to 8, something like that.
6 to 8 new complexes. That's going to include several buildings and all those other things that go along with it. So there'll be a lot of opportunities there, but most of that stuff is being contracted through the Corps of Engineers. Of course, we will have some residual stuff that we'll contract for here at the fifth wing as well. I have a couple of folks with me from the 55th contracting squadron here. We got Cody Benjamin, who's online virtually, and Andrew Busing, who's from our specialized flight, does a lot of work with US Stratcom. They do all of the contracting actually pretty much for US Stratcom. So, you know, if you have questions for them as well, I'm sure they would entertain those. So I think I've covered pretty much. I don't want to take too much time because there's a lot of you, and I'm wanting to give you guys time and opportunities to introduce yourselves. But let me give you a couple things or throw in a couple of tips that you know, I give to small businesses as I talk to them over the phone or email these days. It's more of a virtual environment. But so one thing is to play, you know, if you are going to, first of all, get involved with doing work for the government, for those of you that are not in the business yet, you know, you got to your first contact should be the guys down there at the PTAC, Daniel being one of them. They'll help you get set up and help you get into Beta SAM and all of those things to get you going and getting started to do business with the government. Then I should be your second point of contact to reach out to me just to make, find out, you know, some of the nuances of Offutt Air Force Base and the work to do here. So once you've done that, here's a couple things to keep in mind. So once you understand what Beta SAM is, that's where all of our contract opportunities are posted. They're all posted out there for businesses to see so that they can propose on them. So this Beta SAM site on the home page has a section called Contract Opportunities. And when you click in there, you can search through for different opportunities, not just here at Offutt, but across the nation. So if you want to propose on some of those requirements, you can do so. So my, you know, tip that I give to people is make sure you're constantly monitoring that system, because, you know, there'll be times where maybe I get a little bit of a heads up of something coming down the road, but it's difficult sometimes to share those kind of things, because if they don't come through, we don't want businesses spending money to proposal prep and those types of things for only it to be canceled or not actually put out there for bid. So we do try to provide somewhat of a little bit of a forecast for those reoccurring items. And I've sent that out to some folks just based on what the flight chiefs have sent me and what they're looking at recompeting over the next year. But for the most part, the best thing for you to do is to monitor that Beta SAM site, because that's where everything is posted for you guys to have an opportunity to propose on. The other thing I would say is when you do propose on a requirement here, the military is, you know, very rule oriented, right? So you got to have some discipline and some pay attention to detail when you're filling out proposals, because if you miss something out of a, you know, solicitation that's in there, you know, it could throw you out of the mix as far as competing, even if you have the proposal that provides the best value to the government. So it's very important to pay close attention. One of the other things I will tell you is that you know, you may think that there's not a lot of, that there's too much competition and I don't want to compete. I can tell you that we have several areas where we're not getting much competition at this point. I've been telling small businesses across the community, you know, it's a good opportunity right now to propose out there. You know, we set aside a lot of stuff for small businesses, so only small businesses can compete. So we have goals that we have to meet in all these different categories of small business. So understanding and knowing what your small business, which areas that you actually qualify for is helpful. We ask small businesses to put together what we call a one-page or so, what do we call them? It's a one-page document that describes a little bit about your business, what you guys do.
Your capability statement, sorry.
Thanks, Cody. Capability statement, which includes what you're capable of doing, and also includes information like what small business categories you qualify for, what your cage code is, and all of the specifics that we need in order for you to do business with the government. So Those are great to send forward to me, so I have them, and I have a folders of them to pass out, and I send them also to the flight chief. Excuse me?
Just feedback.
Are you having a hard time hearing me?
It's just a feedback loop. It's
Okay.
you looping back through.
All right, sounds good. So anyways, so that's pretty much all I have at this point. I want to give you guys an opportunity, but let me go to Cody for a minute and see if Cody has anything that he'd like to share, because he's actually one of those guys that's was a flight chief here and is doing no kidding hands-on contracting work, and what he sees out there and what he'd recommend for you guys. Cody?
Thank you, Larry. I'm Cody Benjamin. I worked a lot with commodities and then one-time services, and now I'm in long-time services, but we still do commodities and one-time services type purchase. The biggest thing I was noticing when I was the flight chief of that section was that, like Mr. Mercier said, the attention to detail. And what I'm going to tell you is it's public knowledge, everybody, but for a lot of the simplified stuff that we utilize the clause or the provision called 52.212-2 in all our solicitations. And in that provision, which will be in the solicitation posted on contractor opportunities, we will have everything that is required of you on the technical side. And then we'll have a provision called 52.212-1, which will tell you how to submit your package to us and what we want to look at and stuff like that. If you fail to meet anything in either one of those provisions and you give it to us last minute, we may have time to let you correct it. We may have time to not let you correct it. Oh, sorry. So those two are very important. It's also very important to read the attachment PWS, and it's also very important for you to ask questions through contractor opportunities, because if you don't understand something, we can get you an answer and we can extend the solicitation to make sure that you get it to us. We would really like some small business participation in a lot of our purchases, and we, like Mr. Mercier said, we actually set aside for it. And we thank you all for your interest in looking to work with us. Is that kind of what you need from me, Mr. Mercier?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. We might have covered most of the stuff here, but I'll give it Mr. Busing an opportunity to also make some comments. He's the flight chief in our specialized flight, as I said earlier.
So our specialized flight handles a lot of dedicated support for U.S. Stratcom. There's not as many things that we set aside for small business. We have a good percentage that ends up going out full and open. Doesn't mean small businesses can't compete, but it's put out there for everyone, including large businesses. The biggest thing is responding to our early market research when we do post things. Continuing to monitor if we post sources sought, things like that, where we're asking for interest to assess capabilities within the small business community. It's important that we get feedback and interest and responses. That a lot of times is what helps us determine if something will be set aside specifically for small business or a specific category, or whether it's going to go out full and open for everyone, including large businesses. So that's the number one thing I could just echo, like what Larry said, is please monitor everything on the government point of entry that we post. And if we're asking for information or responses to try and assess capabilities, it's critical that we do get responses if you're interested. So that's kind of my spiel there.
Thank you, Andrew. So now, Daniel, I'll open it up to the next part of the agenda.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, guys. And just a quick note to everybody, that those contracts where they're looking for information will be under the name sources sought. So when you're looking through the contracts, if you see a sources sought, that's what they're talking about. So you want to respond to that so that they know they can set it aside for small biz. So our next part of the agenda today, I'm just going to go down the list of the attendees here and allow everybody just a brief introduction. If you weren't here at the beginning part, what we're going to have you do is just tell us your name, the name of your business, and then the services or products that your company provides. We have almost 50 people in the meeting, so If we can keep them to 30 seconds to a minute maximum, that would be great so that we can get to a questions and answer portion of the session. So just starting with the top of the list, when I call your name, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and we'll go from there. So I see AJ Birchfield first.
Alrighty, I'm here. I also have Jackie Webster with me. We're a company out of Plattsmouth, Nebraska, Unlimited Innovations, and we specialize in cabinetry. You have anything else to add, Jackie?
We also do a lot of other things. I think one of our biggest accomplishments was that we just did the Stratcom, the renovation. So we're able to do a lot of different things. It's almost, you got to ask us what we can do. And if it's something that we can accommodate you with, we'll certainly, try to make that happen for you.
All right, thank you too. Next, I've got Al at strongcap.com. Al, are you there? We'll come back here. I'm going to go on next to Arden Weisenhand. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, everybody.
No, that's good. I'm with Ideal Lennon, and we're headquartered out of Scottsbluff, Nebraska. Just first time I've been involved in the conferences, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us today. It's on my list here. We've got.
Daniel?
Yeah.
What kind of stuff does he provide, or what service does he provide?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
So Ideal Linen provides a commercial laundry service, and then we also provide janitorial supplies, PPE, safety equipment, a number of things like that.
Okay, great.
Thank you. So next we have Bobby Joe Lang.
Good afternoon. My name's Bobby Lang, and I recently joined TEPA LLC. We are a construction company, and we do a variety of construction type services ranging from general construction, site work. We do both design build and design bid build. We also offer services such as geospatial tracking and those types of services. We have a long history of working with the government on Air Force facilities, other military installations, and the like. So we hope to find a way to work with Offutt very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. We have Brian Yentis next.
Hi, Brian Yentis, RW Engineering and Surveying out of Omaha, Nebraska. We provide civil engineering and land surveying services, construction layout, and small civil engineering projects.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. Next up, I've got Calvin.
Calvin Jones with, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Calvin Jones with Lionsgate Security. We're a full service security agency, armed and unarmed, also emergency services, first aid, CPR, training, emergency action plans, training.
Thank you, Calvin. Carol DeJong.
I'm Carol DeYoung with Flatwater Solutions Companies. We are a native tribally owned company as well as 8A and Hub Zone, part of the Buy Indian and the ISBEE programs. We're located in Bellevue.
Hey, Carol, could you repeat that, please? I'm sorry.
Sure. I'm with Flatwater Solutions Companies. We are an 8A in tribally owned company, and I have a colleague on here, Michael Hauser. I'm going to ask him to join me so we can get two out of the way. We are also part of the Buy Indian and the Indian Small Business Economic Enterprise.
Thank you, Carol. Hi, Daniel. This is Michael Hauser. All Native Solutions is part of the Ho-Chunk family of companies with Flatwater Solutions. We originally did the entire FF&E for the 97th Intelligence Squadron about 10 years ago. We currently manage the crack air conditioning equipment on Offutt. And another area that we specialize in is management solutions. We have about 6,000 MFDs out in the multifunction devices, copy, print, scan, out in the DoD and NAVWAR, and also within the DoD. We do a lot of enterprise content management and document security as well.
Awesome. Thank you both. I have a couple questions coming in the chat about if this is going to be recorded. I want to ask the folks at Offutt if we could record this event and share it.
I could try and figure out how to set it up. If he knows how to run it, if he's got the administration things, I think.
Well, I started recording at the beginning of the event, so I have it. It'll save, but I just wanted to make sure I could share it with everybody.
Yeah, I don't think there's any issue with sharing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have an issue with it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. So yeah, this will be recorded, and if you'd like a link to it later, just shoot me an email. I'll put my email in the chat. We're gonna pick up with Chuck Beck, who works with me at the Nebraska PTAC. If Chuck is on, if he wants to talk a little bit. Maybe not. We might come back to Chuck. Oh, looks like he left. Okay, we're gonna go to Daniela Myers next.
Daniel, Daniel, can I interrupt for 1 second? So there is another video that I've actually done, which kind of describes some things as well. I don't know where it is or if it's out there, or if you guys have it, Daniel, but more than happy to have you share that with the folks as well if they're interested.
Yeah, we have the recording on our website, so I can also send that. It's Larry giving a presentation kind of more in depth about, if I'm right, more in depth about the stuff that you talked about earlier. Is that correct?
Yeah, pretty similar, but might have some other things.
Okay.
Since I did it. Thank you.
Sure, yeah, I'll share that as well with anybody that wants it. Daniela Myers, go ahead.
Yes, hi. I'm Daniela Myers. My husband, Derek, and I own Bio1. We're a crime scene and trauma cleanup company, but we also do any sort of other emergency cleanup services, clean up animal waste, rodent droppings, clean out hoarding houses. So any sort of large emergency mess, we handle the cleanup. We also do COVID disinfections and other disinfections for infectious disease.
Awesome, thank you. David Holtzclaw.
Good afternoon. I'm David Holtzclaw with Transduction Technologies. We're a mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineering firm here in Omaha. We do engineering services as well as building envelope and commissioning. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Delta Company Builders. We're having some issue hearing you. Your microphone is kind of cutting in and out.
Mostly cutting out.
Still cutting out. Yeah. Unfortunately, we can't hear you, Delta Company Builders. Your microphone keeps cutting out. Would you mind typing your information into the chat box, and I will go ahead and give your introduction for you. Sorry, we can't hear your microphone, unfortunately. We're going to go to Felicia next, and then I will go back to Delta. Felicia, are you on?
Are you calling on me?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Felicia with Inveterate Solutions. We're a city and federal contractor doing street maintenance and dump hauling.
All right, thank you. Fred McBride. Fred McBride, are you on? Oh, Fred says he has no microphone. He says, Fred McBride at RTG Building Services, Omaha. We offer janitorial, construction cleaning, window washing, carpet cleaning. We are currently cleaning windows at US Stratcom and the Weather Wing. I'm going to go on next to Grant Palmer.
Hi, my name is Grant Palmer. I work with Evora Group, and I am the petroleum sales representative for Evora Petroleum Solutions. We offer installation, service, and maintenance for any petroleum equipment, and are centrally located in West Des Moines, Iowa, but have remote offices in Nebraska, Omaha to be exact, and then over in Illinois.
Awesome, thank you. I'm going to go back. We had Al at Strongcap earlier, didn't have a microphone, but he sent in his info in the chat. Strongcap is an electrical grounding solutions, and they must have a partner that's SDVOSB, and just asking if that's applicable here today. Yes, I would say so. Let's see. Marianne Hugh, have you spoken yet today?
No, I'm actually with the government with 55 Cons. I'm the construction flight chief. Thank you for sending me the link. I was supposed to be there with Larry and Andrew in the conference room, but I actually recognize some of the names because I've seen some of the emails regarding your capability statements. I handle my team manages all of the contracts at Offutt with regards to A&E design and construction for the base, as well as some of the comm requirements that are related to construction.
Thank you for joining us, Marianne. I didn't know you were on earlier, so appreciate you being there.
No problem. I had a little late start. I did.
No problem.
Glad to have you on. Thank you. Jeff Weber.
I'm Jeff Weber with Sapper Construction. We're a service-disabled veteran-owned business located in Omaha. We do heavy civil and building projects, construction.
All right, thank you. Jim Freibert.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Freibert. I'm with Microfilm Imaging Systems. That's how we were founded in the 80s. We are a scanning microfilm business. Much more of our business today is with governmental agencies across the Midwest, Great Plains, providing services, support, equipment, hardware, and rentals. And we do service bureau work for a lot of agencies across the Midwest. So we have people based out of our offices in Omaha and Sioux City, Iowa, and scattered all across the Midwest.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us today, Jim. I'm going to jump back to Delta Company Builders. He says, my name is Matthew Bates and I work with Delta Company Builders. We are primarily residential contractors who do remodels and new builds for single family and multifamily housing. I hope to make the transition from residential to commercial and win bids one day in the future for federal contracts. I'm on this meeting to observe and discover how the process goes to work with agencies like Offutt. Next we have Karen Kawarzagi.
Hi, I'm Karen Kawarzagi. I work at Spiral Solutions and Technologies. We're in Bellevue and we have an office in Glenwood and one in Lexington, Kentucky. We do mostly software development and maintenance types of things. Our biggest contracts are out of Wright-Patterson, but we recently won a spot on Oasis Small Business Pool 3, so we're hoping to change that and win some work at Offutt/Stratcom. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us today. Carl with Speed Pro.
Hi. Waiting for my computer to unmute. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Shaking your head. So good. All right. My name is Carl Fick, and I'm from Speed Pro. We are a large format digital printing and manufacturing and installation company here in Omaha. And we do environmental signage and fleet graphics installations. We have photopolymer sign capability. And so any new construction, we can handle the signage. And so we're excited to potentially provide things. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Kenneth Hahn.
Yeah, this is Steve Smith with Kenneth Hahn Architects. We are a full-service architecture firm that has been working down at Offutt Air Force Base since about 1993.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have Krista Mader, who had to type in the chat here. Let me read it off. Krista Mader with Knowledge Technology Solutions Incorporated, doing business as Quester out of Des Moines, Iowa. Quester provides market research and consumer insights using AI technology to ask the next question of a poll so no actual human interaction is needed. And she left her contact information in the chat. Just as a note there, Offutt has requested that I send them over the list of the attendants today with emails and phone numbers. So I will be sending your information over to them anyways afterwards. Next, we have Luke Pash. Luke, are you on? All right, we're going to skip to Matina Campbell. I'll come back to Luke here if he comes on. Matina typed hers in the chat as well, so I'll read it off. Hello, my name is Matina Campbell. My company is... Oh, Matina, are you here? Do you want to...
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay, because I just updated my computer and everything's all messed up. Okay, so I'm Matina. I am with T.L. Wilson Freight, and I'm basically an intermediary. And so I am the middleman between the shipper of goods and the carrier that will be hauling that freight. So recently what we did is we started adding on doing office moves as well as working with straight vans and box trucks. So for local deliveries, for last mile deliveries, and we are constantly adding more partner carriers. So we're not asset based, but we've got a good relationship with our carriers. So basically their equipment is wherever I want them to go. So that's what we do. And hi Larry, and hi Daniel again. So thank you for having me.
Hey, yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Yeah. We've got Michael Hauser.
Hi, Daniel. I was on earlier with Carol with Flatwater Companies.
Oh, that's right. Thank you for the reminder.
Yep.
Mike Benk.
Good afternoon. I'm Mike Benk. I'm with Alvine Engineering and IP Design Group. We are a mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and technology company. We've been working at Offutt for nearly 30 years. For us, technology services encompasses telecommunications, audiovisual, security, and acoustical services.
All right. Thank you for joining us today, Mike.
Thank you.
I have Mike H. next.
I'm going to assume that might be me.
Yeah.
My name's Mike Romanek. I'm a mechanical engineer with Prohask & Associates, located here in Omaha, Nebraska. We are a full-service architectural engineering firm, a small business with 20 employees. We have a strong veteran. We have a strong staff of experienced people of all the categories. We have architects, engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, structural engineers. We typically have 25 or more years of experience, and we can provide the gamut of we provide the gamut of architectural engineering services from including design, energy analysis, commissioning, project management, the whole everything you can think of. So I think that's a good summary.
Yeah, thank you for joining us
And
today.
appreciate the opportunity to be in on the meeting.
Yeah, of course. Next up, we have Tracy Mumford.
Let me unmute myself here. Good afternoon. I'm Tracy Mumford with the Schemmer Associates, and we are a full-service architecture and engineering company. And then we also provide construction field services. So the engineering we have in-house is mechanical, electrical, structural, civil, transportation, geotechnical. Our field services include survey, construction observation, special inspections. We've been doing work out at Offutt for quite a few years and with other agencies across the Midwest. And once again, thanks for the opportunity to be involved in your meeting here.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. Patty Bain, are you on?
Hello, I am on. Thank you. I am Patty Bain with the Omaha Marriott downtown at the Capital District. And I joined this because we are just in the midst of registering on SAM, and shout out to Tyler Law with PTAC. He's been helping us with that. But we would be able to, of course, provide guest rooms and meeting space, and perhaps any project teams that are working on any of these if you need any guest room needs. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Next, we have Rich Woodson.
Hello, all. I'm Rich Woodson with Alvine Engineering, and as Mike Bink had indicated earlier, we're a full-service MEP consulting firm, including a technology division. We've been working at Offutt for over 30 years and are very familiar with the base. We have been actively involved with Kenneth Hahn Architects in some design charrettes for the redesign of the south part of the Air Force, south part of the base there, for all the areas that were flooded. We understand that some of that work might come out as design build, and we're always looking for ways to partner. Thanks.
Thank you. Next up, we have Rob Stargell. Again, I apologize if I mispronounce everybody's name.
Oh, you got it right. Hi, Rob Stargell, Lund-Ross Constructors. We're a general contractor, construction manager. We worked on the base a fair amount in the 90s and haven't been out since, and we'd like to get back involved. Thank you for allowing us to be here.
Thank you. Next person is RWC.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Awesome. I'm Rod Williamson with RWC. My wife, Tracy, and I own RWC Construction and RWC Enterprises. We're general contractors. We do demolition, excavating, framing, drywall. We're currently working on the base. This is our first year there. We're excited about it and excited about the future opportunities. And thank you for having us on.
No problem. Thank you. Next up, we have Scott McCarville.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Scott McCarville. I'm the owner of Amplified Image Marketing here in Omaha, Nebraska. We are a full-service promotional products provider, being retention items, branded apparel, screen print, embroidery. Small family-owned business. Been here since I've been in business since 2011, and look forward to the opportunity to win some business at Offutt.
All right, thank you for joining us. Next up, we have Jeannie with Slate Architecture. Sorry.
Hi, good afternoon. I am Jeannie LeBron with Slate Architecture. We have two offices, one in Omaha, Nebraska, and the other in Helena, Montana. We're full service architecture, interior design, and planning. We do have quite an extensive federal portfolio, including work for several agencies. Currently at Malmstrom Air Force Base, Fort Harrison. We've done GSA work designing entry kiosks for national parks. So no project too big and no project too small. Thank you to the presenters for the great information. And hello to all my friends. It's great to see so many of you on this phone call.
Thanks for joining us today. Steve Shoemaker, are you able to talk, or do you want me to read your thing? Steve put something in the chat, so I think he maybe doesn't have access to a microphone. I'll read it off. My name is Steve Shoemaker, work for Haworth. We are an office furniture manufacturer with a woman-owned small business set-aside, as well as partners who can offer Native American and Hub Zone set-asides. Next up, we have Susan Rath. Oh, Susan also put hers in the chat. She says, I am with the residents in downtown Omaha long-term stay Marriott hotel property with full kitchens in every room, laundry facilities, and free full breakfast every day. We are registered with SAM.gov and love to work with all government guests coming in that may need hotel accommodations, and left her contact information in the chat there. Next we have Tom with Raven Security.
Yes, hello. This is Tom Shirazi with Raven Security Associates. We're a private security contractor based out of Bellevue. We specialize in event security, site security, principal protection, and security consulting. We also provide training on combatives, hand-to-hand martial arts and firearms, and emergency preparedness and emergency protocol plans. I've done a little bit of work myself with Stratcom through the Global Innovation and Strategy Center, which I don't think exists anymore. This was a while ago, but looking to get back into it. Pleasure to meet all of you.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you for joining us. And last but not least, we have Waka Ramos.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, great. I'm calling from Concord. From Concord Components. Concord has been a supplier of electronic components and assemblies for over 25 years. As a small minority, we're a minority-owned company, woman-owned, and we've been in business for quite a while. One of our very small groups we are one of the very small groups to be certified to supply microcircuits and discrete components to the government, as well as other components as well too, such as connectors, screws, nuts, bolts, everything else that have to do with repairing an airplane or anything else. And like I said, we've been in business for over 25 years. Thank you for having us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, that is everyone has given an introduction. If you haven't, just let me know in the chat and I will interject your introduction here in a little bit. We're going to walk into the next part of our meeting today, which is question and answer session. So for any attendees that have questions for the folks at Offutt, if you've got those, we can ask them now. I would have you use the raise hand function on Microsoft Teams, which should be at the top of your panel there, raise hand. Once I see your little hand thing, I'll write down your name and I'll field questions in the order that I received those. So.
By the way, appreciate it. Hey, Daniel, can I make a couple of comments after those presentations? I just wanted to say a few things before we start the question and answer.
Yep, go ahead.
So one thing is that as I've listened to all of you, first of all, several of you I recognize that I've either worked with on active duty or as a small business specialist. So thank you for all participating. Many of you, as we went through that, have already worked with me or with the government anyways. So you understand. There are also some that haven't worked with the government before. So we're here to help in both of those cases. So a couple of things from everything I heard, the small descriptions of the things you provide, the vast majority of you all definitely produce or sell things that the government needs and Offutt Air Force Base needs and uses. So that's a good thing. Some not as frequently as others, but all of them seem to apply. What I would ask each and every one of you is to, I know many of you already have a capability statement. If you would send me that capability statement to my email, just so I have it. Others that don't have a capability statement, what I'd ask is that you put together a one-page, nothing significant or not too time-consuming, a little description in a little bit more depth as to what you provide, what's your status as a small business, what's your status of doing business with the government, that kind of thing. And if you have a cage code and all that, that would be great to include into that information. Also, I would ask that you make sure that Daniel has your contact information on that contact sheet should I need to get a hold of you. And make sure that there's a little description there too about, a short couple liners of what you provide. My last thing here is I'd ask you each to take down my email address. Daniel could probably give it to you as well, but I'll go ahead and tell you what my email address is so that you can email me following up this meeting. Because if you have a question that you may not feel comfortable answering in the open forum, or you have a question that you think of later, I'm the resource to try to help you get if I don't have the answer, I'll try to find out where I can get it. So my email address is Larry, Larry, .Mercier, MERCIER, .2, the number 2, at us.af.mil. So feel free to reach out to me at any time with any of your questions or anything you need from my perspective. A lot of times I'm not the decision maker on some of these things, and the one thing I didn't put out there in my introduction is that the government does have a lot of rules, to follow and those types of things. Some of the things that we procure, we have to go to mandatory sources and those types of things. I didn't want to get into too much depth about all of those nuances.
Larry, I think your microphone got muted.
Okay, that's it. But you heard most of that?
Most of it, yeah. Yeah.
Did you get my email address?
Yes, we got the email. Yep.
All right, great. So now let's just open it up to questions, please.
Sure. Right before we jump into questions, I had one more intro from Steve Kreiser, National Sales Manager for MJ Optical Company, which is an independent family-owned, and they provide prescription eyewear and safety eyewear located in Omaha. Thanks for joining us, Steve. Questions and answer sessions now. We're going to start with Scott McCarville. I had you first.
Thank you. So my question relates to searching in the SAM beta portal. Is there specific language or verbiage to use to look for that specifically calls out Offutt or the 55th Wing?
Well, from my experience, normally the description will call out the 55th Wing. I don't know that it always does though, so it's paying particular attention, and it's not the most, at this point, it's not the most user-friendly search engine. I think the one we had previous was better, but I think it just takes some getting used to as far as what to look for. But you should see some identification, whether it's 55th Wing, Offutt Air Force Base, Nebraska. There should be some identification that would lend you to believe. The other thing that's on some of the things is our DODAC code is FA 4600. So that should be out there as well as part of the solicitation.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that code?
Yes, it's the beginning of it is FA, F is in Frank, A is in Apple, 4600.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
It's also worth trying to search for 55 Cons or 55th Contracting Squadron. That might give you some hits too.
Great, thank you.
All right, I had David Holtzclaw next. David, did you have a question? Nope. Okay. All right. Then I had Fred McBride after. Oh, and Fred, I believe, doesn't have microphone. He left it in the chat. He said, what is the best method to get in place to receive business opportunities that are not out for bid but purchased by credit card?
Well, so as far as our GPC program goes, normally those are under a lot of those that you won't see advertised are under the micro purchase limit, which is $2,500. So those things that the contracting officers normally go out to 2 or 3 sources. So I would recommend the best way to do that is to make sure that you get me your capability statement so that I can forward it at least to some of the folks here within the contracting squadron. So if they're looking for people to go out and get quotes from, that they have that information. There's really not a place where some of those smaller items are posted or anything to that effect. So I don't know, Cody, have you got any, you've had some experience in those flights and with GPC purchases?
Yeah, we get contacted a lot, from our customers on our end, looking for vendors all the time, which is why, like Mr. Mercier has stated, your capability statements are so important because, I mean, we give those out to people. So, and we let them have it. And so at the credit card level, it's kind of up to their discretion a little bit. So giving us those capability statements will let our customers know what it is that you do. And so they'll know when to call you and when not to call you and stuff. And so that's probably your best opportunity there. Again, there's no guarantee that you'll get anything from it, but at least your name's going to be out there, and everything, and it'll at least give you an opportunity to possibly be a part of it.
Thanks, Cody. And the thing I will caveat is that there can be some GPC purchases up to 25,000, but that's some rules involved with that as well.
Awesome, thank you. I had Patty Bain.
Hi, thank you. Again, I'm with the Omaha Marriott downtown at the Capital District, and we are working on getting our SAM registration. And I was wondering how important it is for a hotel to be registered on SAM in order to have an opportunity for any guest room needs or meetings. We have had government rooms and meetings at our hotel without that. So I'm just wondering how important it is.
Well, if it involves a contract with the government for a conference or such, you have to be registered with SAM in order for us to be able to contract with you. So I would say it's very important in the hotel for you to register in SAM, get a cage code, because we can't do business with you unless you have it.
And the reason you probably were able to, because I recognize your name, ma'am. The reason you were probably able to do that before is because a third party went between the third party that you dealt with had the cage code and was registered in SAM. So we went through them and then they went through you is probably how that worked out. So that's why you probably saw that.
So you can cut out the middleman and you could propose on those yourself if you wanted to. But to do that, you'd have to be registered. Andrew, did you have a comment?
I was going to say the only thing that you may be able to get, because you miss out on all the opportunities where we try to contract directly with you to host things for conferences, or if we're looking to contract for space. The thing that you still may get some access to and may have people approach you through is if you have government travel card holders that are TDY here. Those also may be some of the individual people that still book and stay with you because you're dealing with somebody with their government travel card versus a contract to set up conference space or to do something of that nature. So that's a little differentiation there.
That's a very good point, Andrew. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I haven't seen any other raised hands yet. Does anybody else have questions? You can go ahead and turn your mic on and, let's start with Jim Freibert.
This would be addressed to Mr. Mercier and Cody, the Air Force team. I'm wondering if there are opportunities arising from the transfers from Offutt Air Force Base to Lincoln Airport, if there's anything that you can address.
Cody, you want to take that? I mean, we've already had some of those requirements get put out and on contract. As far as future, more requirements in the future, maybe Cody would have a little insight into that.
Can you specify what you mean by move? Do you by transportation? Are you talking about equipment, or are you talking about like moving offices, or?
Thank you, Cody. More related to, because we are an office technology and services and support supplier, hardware and software, I'm wondering more about the office transfers related to that people are working at Offutt now, but a lot of equipment is moving to Lincoln.
Can you send your capability statement to Mr. Mercier and you'll forward it to me? And
Absolutely.
that goes for everybody on this call as well. Possibly, I can't say yes or no for sure, but because they're kind of sporadic in nature. But I mean, we have had a couple that we've done, so there are probably going to be opportunities. Now, what extent of those opportunities, I'm not 100% sure, but definitely having your information would be super helpful.
Thank you.
So possibly, yes. Sorry, I couldn't give you a more direct answer on that. So
no, that's good. Thank you.
I will tell you that if we do, have other requirements, they'll definitely be posted on Beta SAM. So if you're monitoring that, you should catch some of those. But I don't know if I'm understanding you correctly. You're talking about actually helping move office stuff.
No, not the physical move, Larry, but because you're leaving offices at Offutt, are they creating new offices in Lincoln for the staff moves?
Yeah, I don't know how many actual office workers are moving, but yeah, as Cody said, send us your capability statement and we'll let you know if something comes up. But also monitor SAM, please, and make sure that you catch that. I know there's going to be some transporting folks back and forth for some of the work they're doing. Some of them are going to be staying there in hotels and such, but we'll definitely be posting any kind of requirements like that out there.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I had a question from Tracy Mumford next.
Yeah, this is a question related to sources sought. I've sent in replies to sources sought in the past. And this might be a question for Larry or Cody, but how is it determined that you have enough participation to submit a solicitation that is a set aside? Is it like you have to have 3 firms that meet those requirements? Is it, a half a dozen? What's kind of the criteria for that?
So if it depends on the thresholds, right? But in general, if we have 2 or more small businesses that we think are capable, not only capable, but are also willing to propose, then we will set that aside for small business.
Yes, sir. That's exactly it too, and that's why it's so important to respond to us, like Mr. Busing and Mr. Mercier said, to our sources soughts, so that we have that hard data that we can use on everything when we do, because we have to conduct and fill out our paperwork for market research. So, saying that, yep, I'm a small business and I can do this, probably will be helpful in us setting aside for small business.
We get a little nervous if we only get 2 and, one of them says, yeah, I could do it, but doesn't really commit to it. So we're really looking for information on those sources sought that you want to participate if it is put out, kind of thing.
Here, I'll add a little to this discussion too. The sources sought, complexity of those and what we look for typically goes up with the larger the project is. We tend to ask for more in the sources sought. So please be aware of what you're looking at and what is asked for in the sources sought. Because sometimes just simply sending back your capability statement may not be enough for us to determine that you would be considered a capable small business. A lot of times in the bigger, more robust or more detailed sources sought, we may have some more specific criteria that we're asking for information on to help make the determination of whether or not you will be considered capable. So just pay attention to what's being asked for there. Sometimes it's very simple. Sometimes it's a little more complex, but the complex ones are usually because it's going to be a large contract. So we want to make sure that there are capable companies before we do a set aside.
And like I mentioned earlier on, we have a lot of opportunities that we put out there that we don't get a lot of interest in. And we don't understand why. We don't know if it's because they think there's going to be too much competition, or, you know, they don't know if it's worth the time that they can. But I will tell you, and I'm sure Cody would echo this, is that there are some requirements that we put out there that we know that there's a lot of small businesses in the area, but they're just not proposing. And so we want to get the word out that, you know, there's not, in some cases, in some instances, there's not a lot of competition. And the more we get people participating on the base, the larger our industrial base, and the better off we'll be. So when you see those sources start, you know, that means we're looking, and we want to find contractors out there that can do the job, because these guys go here, and Mary Ann on the line, they all are very supportive of small business, as I mentioned, and their goal is to set it aside for small business if we can.
Thanks, gentlemen. One thing I'll also point out that we tell a lot of our clients to do is, if you see a sources sought that you can respond to as a small business, it might be beneficial to send that over to some of your competitors as well, just because if it'd be easier to bid against a couple small firms rather than having that contract to go out full and open and having to bid against some big players. So we sometimes will suggest to companies to get more companies on board with responding to that, because it is important. I think I had a question next from Steve.
Yes, Steve Kreiser, MJ Optical. I was just curious, is there a certain amount of time you try to allot when you put out the bids for response? Sometimes, I watch, and sometimes they're fairly short periods of time. So I didn't know if you kind of had a goal to hit a certain amount of time.
Yeah, there are some rules, and again, those all apply to thresholds. And so if it's, depending on what the requirement is and the dollar amount of that requirement, so say it's under 250,000, then we can set that aside for less than 30 days. So it depends how complex the requirement is. It's a judgment call on the contracting officer. If he thinks that he or she thinks that it's not very complicated and that proposals could come back quickly, or if we look at the timeline of how long or how soon we need something, we may go out for 10 or 15 days, depending on the requirement. Normally 15 for a short one. But then if it gets up above the simplified acquisition threshold, they got to go out 30 days.
Okay, thank you.
Cody, you got any clarification, or Andrew, on that?
Basically, the only clarification I have is it goes back to the sources sought. So if we get 10 people that are interested on the sources sought, we go, we kind of ask them too, hey, how long do you guys need to propose on something? And if they go, I can give you a quote today, we go, well, we're not going to put out for 30 days then, because I usually go 15 to 30 days under 250K just out of my section. Depending on when we need to push it out. But if I have a lot of interest and it's simple in nature and most of the vendors are on board with it, we'll kick it out. The goal is to get as much competition as we can, because competition is good for everybody. So we don't want to do a 3-day turnaround or something and then not get anybody interested. So, or that can meet that. So if you feel that you ever need an extension, always ask. It never hurts. You may not get one. But I mean, if you don't get one, you're in the same situation you would have been in before. Most of the time when they come to me, if I think it's going to be in the best interest of the government, I'll extend it out. So.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just, we've done, I have some state ones and that, and a lot of times the owner of the company likes to run it through our attorneys. And so sometimes it takes a few extra days, and that's why I just, there's sometimes when I haven't caught it and soon enough to get it in, I think. So thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, if anybody needs to ask for an extension too, the other thing I'll foot stop on that is try not to wait till the very end. If you send that in last day or something, we're probably not going to be extending if you're right up against the end. If you're a little more proactive and ask a little earlier, you got a better shot at getting the extension. If you wait till the very end, it might be too late. We might have what we have, and we're just going to close and go with that. If you get it into us a little earlier, it takes time for us to also do amendments and put extensions in place. So if it's at the very end, it might be too late.
Okay, yeah, 15 days is reasonable. So thank you.
Have you actually seen, because normally what I've seen through here is 15 days or 30. Have you actually seen some that were less than 15 from Offutt?
You mean myself?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it might have been like you had said. There's they were something that they felt could be a quick turnaround. But like I said, our owner usually, because with the government contracts and state ones and that, they're sometimes lengthy. So they always like to have it run through the attorney's office, and sometimes that takes an extra 2-3 days. So I was just curious if there was a certain time limit you try to adjust to.
Okay.
But I guess I wasn't really aware of the extensions and that you could ask for an extensions.
The thing I'll echo there too, if you deal with any state contracts, those will be much, much different than what we do because they don't have to deal with the rules and regulations in the federal acquisition regulation, which we are bound to because we're a federal government contractor. So if you see state stuff, probably much different, could be much shorter, could ask for a lot of different things. It's a very different process.
Yeah, and like I said, we have had some state ones and nothing on the larger scale of the federal. So that's why I was just kind of trying to get an idea of, like maybe a certain time frame that is giving to respond. So thanks.
Yeah, as Andrew brought up the federal acquisition regulation, so I would just put out there to you all, if you're having a hard time sleeping and you need to, you're trying to get some sleep, you try reading the FAR online. It's pretty thick.
That's good. Let's go.
That's why I leave it to the attorneys to read those.
There you go. Let's go to Tom with Raven Security.
Yeah, I just had a quick question on the capability sheet being like just one page. Is that potentially just like to start a greater conversation with you guys? Because I know we're sort of like asking ourselves, what can't we do at this point? And filling out just one page might be a slight bit difficult with in terms of like detail and whatnot.
Well, no, I mean, if it takes you a couple of pages, that's fine as well. But if you don't have something to us, is like some of the things we've already pointed out, that sometimes we just go to those capability statements for the smaller requirements that we don't have to put out there to compete. So we might look for 2 or 3 quotes. So we may go out to the capability statement to find that. So yeah, if you have to make it, if it exceeds a page, normally most of them are a page. But if you got more stuff to include on there, yeah, feel free to do that.
Okay, yeah, I just figured, yeah, one page resume rules kind of thing. That's good.
Yeah, that's not one of the requirements, but if you see a solicitation that says you have to submit 1 page, that's 1 page.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Jim, did you have another question?
I did. Thank you, Daniel and Larry, for the help that you guys have given me in directing us to this. I worked for more than a decade with a global tech company, and I've got officers of every rank up to general as friends and aviation contacts. Daughter was an Air Force Academy graduate. And I'm wondering how you define small business, because a global tech company's perspective is much different than my company with under 25 employees. And you said you needed sometimes at least 2 sources. We compete against national electronics firms, and we're winning bids from the Canadian border almost to New Orleans. But in dealing with our neighbors at Offutt, we've been involved with the 55th Wing in the past, but it's been more than several years. So what's the Air Force determination of what makes a small business?
Well, and Daniel may be able to help you to determine if you're a small business or not, but it's all based on NEX codes. So basically, what industry that you're in, and each industry is different. So each industry has different, numbers of employees, dollar thresholds, that, annual dollar revenues, those types of things that determine whether in your industry, whether you're a small business or not. And if you have questions about whether you qualify for a small business, you can talk with Daniel and he can go through that and figure that out for you. The other thing that I would point out is that there are some times when we do, so there's the 100% small business set aside where all small businesses can compete. And then sometimes we may put out a solicitation that might be targeted towards, maybe a veteran-owned small business or disabled, service disabled veteran-owned businesses or hub zone. Depending on, we have goals that we have to meet for certain categories of small businesses, small women-owned small businesses, veteran-owned small businesses, service disabled veteran-owned small businesses. There's a list of them right there. So there are times when we maybe not achieving a goal in one category or another. So we may target that category by putting it out just for those businesses, shrinking the pool. So why I bring that up is because if you just qualify for a small business set aside and you don't look a little further, maybe you're woman owned or maybe you're in a hub zone. Those are significant things that you want to make sure are included in your capability statement and that you are certified for so that you can compete under those, we call them socioeconomic set-asides.
Thank you, Larry.
To your point, Larry, yeah, it's based on NAICS code, and I just put in the chat a link to the SBA's size standards website. That's where you're going to find out super easily if your business would be considered small in the NAICS code that you're looking to do business in. So you can go ahead and check that out there. Also, a good note on socioeconomic categories. We have a workshop coming up on that at the end of February. If anybody's wanting more information on socioeconomic categories and set-asides, we can help you determine if that's something for you. Is there any other?
I'll add one other thing while we're on that topic. When we post our sources sought and our solicitations, always very important to look at the NAICS code it's posted under and trace that back to your NAICS code under that particular classification. That's going to tell you if you can compete as a small or not. When we post things, we have to put that information out with our solicitation of how it's categorized under that NAICS code. So I would go find that information right away every time you're looking at a sources sought or an actual solicitation. And then that SBA link you got, that'll help trace back to see if you are categorized and fit as a small business under that NAICS code. And you should also be putting that information when you're registering out there under SAM. That's a good place to put a lot of different NAICS and list out, I think, if you are considered a small under the different NAICS you perform under.
Yeah, so thank you, Andrew. That's very important. And so you may be, for those companies out there, and the one I was just speaking with that said he had too much information to put on one page, you may operate under many NAICS codes. And if you do, you may operate in some NAICS codes as a small business and others you may not qualify for. So it's very important to understand your business, what you do, and what you qualify for in the small business arena. It's very helpful for these guys. Thank you.
Thank you for that, gentlemen. Anybody else have any questions at this point?
The one thing I'll mention, if in case we're waiting for another question to come up, that I jotted down is sometimes the contracting officers will put out requests for information. If you see those requests for information, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to lead to a solicitation or it's going to lead to something or business from you. But what the contracting officer is trying to do is trying to ensure that we're, sometimes it's about trying to define the requirement to make sure we're doing the right thing and make sure we're getting it out there to the right people. So if you do see those requests for information get put out there and you have any information that's applicable, please try to submit that to us so it can help us define our requirements better. You guys use a lot of those still?
Yeah, sometimes we use those a little earlier on if we haven't got to the point where we're ready to post a sources sought. And sometimes those requests for information may be helpful when we're trying to determine what NAICS code best fits our requirement, if we post draft requirement documents out there, when you submit responses, sometimes that can help us when we're trying to figure out the NAICS or how to classify a requirement before we move further with the solicitation process.
Because you all are in the business of just your particular industry, and in some cases, you know better than maybe the government team with some requirements as to what we're asking. So, you know, a lot of times, excuse me, a lot of times when you are out there reading something and you have a question, probably more times than not, some others that are looking at the requirement have that same question. So please don't hesitate. You're only helping us, you know, speed up the process. It's all about, you know, these days you hear about how long it takes sometimes for the government to put something on contract and all that. But the more help that we can get from you all, as far as defining our requirement early and asking those questions early, the quicker the process will go. Because if you wait till the end, or you say, I'm not, you know, I don't want to ask the question, I'll propose on, you know, the way it's written, that just hurts everybody in the end, right? A couple other things about small business, right? So when you propose on small business, you know, I really need you all to make sure you're proposing at a price and on a schedule that you can complete. Because the worst thing that can happen is if you go ahead and say, well, I'm gonna underbid this so I can win the contract, and then you can't perform. It's not only gonna hurt you and your past performance, but it's gonna hurt small business as a whole, because, you know, whatever's a requirement owner out there, you know, sometimes they like to go with the large businesses that have been doing this for a long time. They don't understand how qualified and how good small businesses out there are. But when they have a story to tell, right, a bad story, you know, sometimes for some reason, you know, as we all know, negative gets more publicity, right? So if you have a small business that fails and that customer starts talking about how they failed, then they start spreading the word. And then we have customers that come to contracting here and they say, we don't want to go small business because of what happened under that contract. And we try to explain that's one business, that's not small business. Small business does a great job and is, you know, the vast majority of small businesses we deal with come in on schedule and at the price they propose. And that's the story that we try to tell, but don't try to be one of those negative stories. We have a lot of contracts, especially, well, we've had a few contracts up at, you know, US Stratcom, which is more about buying capability from people, right? Buying assistance and advisory services. And we have contractors that propose and they win, and then the rates that they're willing to pay for the skill levels that are out here in the area are not high enough to attract people to come to work for them. So they can't fill positions, they can't get the requirements done, and then it's a big mess, and it hits their past performance, and they're probably not going to be able to. You're better off to, what I would say is you're better off to put in a proposal that you're comfortable with, that you can actually ensure performance and lose, than underbid and win. So just something to keep in mind. Another thing that I've noticed over the years in this business that can hurt a business and the community in general.
Great points there. Thank you. Anybody else have questions here?
Andrew, do you mind if, before we close, if there's no other questions, that I go around to Mary Ann, who's the construction flight chief, Cody, and Mr. Busing here to give us any of their final thoughts for small business?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys go ahead and take it away there.
Mary Ann, are you on the line? Still?
Hi.
Great.
Just waiting for Andrew to talk. I think out of everything that was discussed today and all the questions, the biggest thing I think everybody needs to take away from this is to speak up and let us know if you're seeing something that's put out on for opportunities, either as source of thought or even as solicitations for bid. If you're seeing information in there that you have questions on, or you really just need more clarification on, please respond. Please let us know, because we are putting a lot of that information out there because we're looking to hire and to also talk to you all as the experts. So we really do need that feedback. And then to kind of stay on point with what I think Andrew and Larry had said earlier, the biggest thing is read what is put out there. And I realize that sounds kind of elementary, but the reality is I have reviewed a lot of source selections and a lot of proposals in my time. And it's really hard when I receive like 10 proposals, and out of those 10, I get 1 or 2 that have absolutely nothing to do with what I asked for. And it's just a canned proposal from what looks like something that was previously bid on. And that can also that basically kicks you out. And that essentially is a level of effort that you put into that proposal, whatever that level of effort was, that really just hurts your company more than it helps. So please read everything that's put out in terms of the solicitation. And if you have questions about anything, please ask them. The reason I'm saying this is because I'll have 2 pretty big solicitations coming out for those of you in construction. One will be for the multiple award construction contract. That's going to be specifically for Offutt Air Force Base. That should be coming out. It's a little delayed, but it should be coming out in a couple months. And then the other is for the civil and electrical A&E contract for Offutt Air Force Base. That should be coming out as well. It's delayed as well, but it should be coming out in the next couple of months. So when those post, in particular, each of those contracts will be basic contracts that will be for generally the term of 5 years each, and allows you to compete on the MAC or go directly to on the A&E contract projects here at Offutt Air Force Base. That's all I have.
Thank you, Marianne. So just for some of you construction companies out there that haven't done business with the government yet and are looking to, when Marianne's talking about that MAC contract, it's multiple award construction contract, meaning you're going to be competing to be able to be one of the contract holders for a 5-year period. That first competition is not necessarily going to be for work. So what you're competing on is to get onto this contract for a 5-year period. And then when a construction requirement comes up over the next 5 years, that requirement is only going to go to those that have won and been awarded the multiple award construction contract. So I don't know what their target is on this one, 5 to 8 contractors, maybe, but once those contractors are on for 5 years, those construction contracts are locked into those contract holders. So all the other construction companies, as far as requirements put on that contract, are not going to be able to compete. So that, and on the other one, it's a single award IDIQ. So meaning that one contractor that gets that award won't get an award immediately, probably, or maybe they might be one project that they use to evaluate. But if they're awarded that contract for 5 years, they're going to go directly to that contractor for their civil and electrical needs, A&E needs. Did I misspeak there at all, Marianne, or is that good?
No, that's good. I'll also reiterate, what Spectrum with regards to Offutt are really concerned about 5 years. Yes, the Milcon projects related to the campuses are being out of for engineering. So what you might expectations for
Marianne, we can't hear you. You broke up.
sorry. Is this any better?
Yeah, that's perfect.
So,
Could you repeat that?
yeah. So what I was getting at is the earlier question about how do you search for work at Offutt Air Force. When what I've been about with
You're breaking up again. Sorry.
That's okay. I'll just get the text. But basically, just do as many, try to search as best as you can for work off airport base, because it'll be more of a. Thank you.
All right, Mary Ann will put that out in the chat so you all can see it in the chat. She'll put that information out there. I think she was talking a little bit about what we talked about earlier, the Milcon projects that are going to be done by the Corps of Engineers and not through us. But there'll be a lot of residual work, I think, that'll come to Offutt Air Force Base contracting for that work. But the major complex projects, construction projects, are going to be handled by the Corps of Engineers for that Milcon work. All right, Andrew?
One thing I'll sort of add a little emphasis on here today. I know we've talked a little about how we post things out on Beta SAM, on the contracting opportunities place. That's the government point of entry where we post our solicitations, our sources sought. There are third-party companies that data mine the government site and then they sell you access to their sites. If you go through one of those companies and they have errors in what they pull off of our site, just know the government is not responsible for any information you get through a third-party company if you choose not to use our government portal to get solicitation information. So I will emphasize again, there are these third-party companies that will charge you access to their site and act like they are the government point of entry, but there is only one site we post to. So if you see these other companies trying to get you to pay for access to their site, there is no charge to use the actual government point of entry, the Beta SAM site. So just be aware. A lot of times we'll have contractors come and ask and say, hey, you had bad information with your solicitation. Well, if they got it from one of those third-party sites, sometimes they mess it up. We're not responsible for that. That's not to say we are always perfect on what we post, but the more people that touch something, the more opportunity to introduce errors into that process. So it's up to you what you do as an organization, but the government posts those things and offers it to everyone free of charge. So it's up to you if you pay for it, but that is not something that comes from us if you use one of those sites.
Yeah, and as somebody, to Andrew's point, somebody that's trying to look out for small businesses, I want to put out there that you really don't have to pay for the information through these third parties. I have them calling me too, and they're trying to get me to give them information that they can then go take to you and sell it to you. Here's some requirements or forecasts. And I've had several calls like that. Don't do it. We're giving you the information right here, as Andrew said, for free. We're giving you the information through Beta SAM, through Daniel, Ty. You can get everything that you need for free through the PTAC, through me as a small business specialist, and through these guys as the contracting officers. I'm sorry, anything else?
No, that's the important thing. I just wanted to throw that out there while we were talking about posting stuff, because we get inundated with calls from these third-party companies where they're trying to get extra information so that they can turn around and sell it to you guys. And honestly, it's a big waste of money because you can get the information for free yourself. So it's a good way to cut down on your overhead and some of your extra indirect costs if you just get your own access to Beta SAM and look for information yourself, rather than paying one of these companies to do whatever they do and data mine and give you that secondhand information.
Yeah, and Daniel and all those folks down at the PTAC, if you have questions or concerns about how to get set up and how to get into Beta SAM and register and all that, that's what they're there for. They're there to help small businesses, to advise them with their small business plans, with their, all of those types of things. Thank you for bringing that up, Andrew. Appreciate it. Cody?
Thank you, Ms. Huff and Mr. Busing. Yeah, it's the same thing with a lot of my stuff. If I post sources thoughts on the government point of entry or anything, feel free to reach out to us. Again, like I know it's been stated before, but if you think it can be improved on or doesn't make sense, let us know, and we'll have the discussion with you. And that doesn't cost anything. It's free. We want you to do it. We encourage you to do it. That definitely helps us and it helps you. Yeah, we really want small business participation because I know a couple months ago I was begging and pleading for about the last 2 months of into fiscal year for small businesses. I was contacting the PTACs in 3 different states. I was working with Mr. Mercier, and it was kind of a struggle. So please, yeah, if you have your capability statements, pass them along, and please look out there. And if you contact me during the sources sought or anything in my section and you say, hey, I'm interested, can you contact me when we post it? I'm 100% okay having my admins contact you once it's posted out there, and then you can review it as well. So thank you all for joining, and it's been awesome meeting you all.
Thank you.
Hey, I got one thing to add, Larry. Cody just made me think of it. So one of the benefits that may not have been real crystal clear, if you guys pass your information through these capability statements to Larry and he has this stuff on file, sometimes when we have our small requirements that we don't have to post, we go to him and say, hey, are there companies that you have statements on that can do this? And if he has those in hand and he gives them to us and it's something very small that we don't have to post, we'll just go right to those companies and give them access to that information on the really small buys. So it's in your benefit to create a relationship with Larry and give him your information, because you never know what's going to come down the pipe here from at Offutt. And if he has that info, there's sometimes that could lead to something, you being reached out to directly to give us a proposal on some smaller requirement.
Thank you, Andrew. And now that just led me to think of something else that I want to pass on to you all. So the other thing I will tell you is there may be times where you think, oh, if a requirement is posted out there for a large business, well, I don't have any play in that. What I will tell you is you do, because there's subcontracting goals that each of these prime contractors and large businesses have to adhere to. Not only that, I have large businesses that call me all the time, and I've actually met with some large businesses, and what they say to me sometimes is, hey, do you have some small businesses in this area or that area that we could contact to see if they wanted to compete with us as a, under their opportunity? And so they're looking for subcontractors all the time. So by having that information and having the capability statements, I can say, yeah, here's a couple, and I've already done it a few times. Here's a few that have responded that could do this type of thing, someone you might want to look at. And so that's helpful as well. In closing, let me just bring up one final thing is, look, I'm the conduit between you all, the contracting officers, and the requirement owners. I don't have the authority to contract or select you or to pick you for a particular contract, but my job is to advocate for you and to give the information that they need to reach out or to, whatever the case may be. As far as setting up individual appointments, I know if I was in your shoes, I'd probably not I'd want to bypass me too and go directly to, the flight chief for construction or the flight chief for specialized, like Marianne or Andrew here or Cody. These are all some of the leads here as far as the contracting squadron goes. But if we had to do that if I set up a meeting with everybody with them, they wouldn't have time to do their day-to-day job. So they count on me to sort of be that conduit and to sort of gather that information and to make sure that they're aware. So I have a role and an obligation to them as I do with you. So we don't try to set up direct meetings with them unless there's something they want to talk to you about. They'll let me know and I'll reach out to you. So I'm your conduit out there and I'm your advocate. I appreciate what you all do. I appreciate you all taking your time today to come out here and speak with us. And I hope to be able to meet more of you. I know I've met several of you that are online today, but I hope to meet more of you and talk to more of you in the future. And hopefully we can get you set up and get you some business here at Offutt Air Force Base. Always feel free to reach out, whether by email, phone call. I'm available, and that's what I'm here for.
Hey, gentlemen, let me just close this off here really quick. For everybody here, I'm going to send you an email following up with the contact information for the folks over at Offutt so that you can have that, as well as the recording from today's event and a recording that Larry did for us last year. So look for an email from me there. Gentlemen, I will be sending you the list of the contacts from today's event, along with their contact information and everything, so look out for that. And then last thing, well, we had a couple questions here in the chat. Do you guys want to answer those quick or do
Sure.
that? Okay.
I'm here as long as they need me.
So there was a question about event planning. Let me see where the original one. Is there any information about event planning or trade shows?
You know, normally as far as the trade shows go, the COVID has really, prevented us from getting together face to face. That's why we're trying to do some of these virtual type events like this. So I think the PTAC is working hard to maybe, at some point when we're able to get together again in person, we will have those trade show type of events. But at this point, this is what's being used in its place. It's kind of nice though, because I think it's given more people an opportunity to tune in and to ask questions and to get involved. But the you can't replace the face-to-face. So I hope to see more in the future, and I hope to be able to get out there a little bit more and meet and greet. But I'm still doing, for those of you that want to come out and meet, I can still do one-on-ones with companies here at Offutt Air Force Base. We can set up a time and you can come out and we can sit down and talk about what you do and get to know each other a little bit more face to face. Does that answer the question?
I believe so, yeah. Also, just to answer Wesley's question, we were chatting about NAICS codes in the chat. I think, Wesley, you're referring to a bid match, probably, email system. And yes, the NAICS codes that you list on your SAM or with us at the PTAC, if it's through us, that'll determine which solicitations get sent to you. With that, just a closing note. If you didn't know who I am Daniel Kuhar with the Nebraska PTAC. It's been mentioned a couple times. If you have any questions further about government contracting, as far as Beta SAM, how to use it, if you want us to do some market research for you, if you want to learn how to get certified for different socioeconomic categories or anything like that, just let us know. I'm going to type my email in the chat here for you. You can reach out to me with any questions you have, and if you want to get a list of any of our upcoming events, I can give that to you as well. I think that's all we have for today. So thank you, everybody, for attending today. Thank you, gentlemen, for presenting. We appreciate everybody's time very much.
Thank you, Mary Ann, and everybody, all the gentlemen involved.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, gentlemen.